we got a big payday. A black man awarded $1 million after exposing racism at his company. They tried him. He gets the last laugh. Put it up full bass here. And that's called diversity and unity. Everybody's smiling. These individuals have won because Quentin Watts got fired. Man in the middle got fired from his job at an Alabama industrial company after he exposed a coworker who called him the N-word. This should have been the easiest employment issue to deal with. I mean, this one was more than a layup. They damn near put it in the goal for you, okay? Called him the N-word. He has $1 million now. Why? So Atlanta Black Star reports the judgment of exactly $978,075, which was ordered by U.S. Magistrate Judge Bradley Murray in Alabama, was $338,000 more than the jury had awarded the plaintiff in May after hearing the racial discrimination case that Mr. Quentin Watts and his attorneys presented against the company. You see it, J&L Industrial Services, LLC. I'm going to give you the details, okay? Doesn't pay to be racist if you're the company doing it, but if you happen to be the victim, get a good lawyer. All right, so in May 2022, now 44, he began working for J&L, Mr. Quentin, as a millwright on a project at a Georgia Pacific plant in Cedar Springs, Georgia. That's according to the lawsuit. The lawsuit was filed second month 2024, obtained by Atlanta Black Star. A millwright is a profession. It's a person who installs and maintains industrial equipment, makes sure the equipment is inspected and works. On a Friday, 5 days into the job, Watts alleges that as he was going to the tool trailer where a group of employees were having lunch, he heard coworker Robert Max say, "I see J&L hired this N-word up here." I'm sure he said it kind of like that, by the way, positive. So in reference to him as he's walking, the only black worker on the project in that room. We are in Alabama, and I would tell you, Alabama, everybody isn't racist. Not like that. That's still extreme, even though it's Alabama. The racial epithet was also allegedly heard by the other coworkers, white coworkers, who were actually upset by this. Why? Everybody in Alabama isn't racist like that. That's why. What did they do? Well, they joined Mr. Watts. They joined Mr. Watts. That is one of the most important parts of the story, in my opinion. They joined him. They knew the white guy, but they joined Mr. Watts in reporting the comment. They reported the comment directly to their supervisor, Michael Pruitt, as well as to a project manager, and they reported it to the HR director, who was actually on site that day. You have 3 levels of management reporting happening on the same day of said incident by the individuals who heard a racial or racist term used against somebody who just started working there who happens to be black. The lawsuit asserts, on February 2nd, 2023, Watts received a termination notice advising him that he was terminated due to, quote, reduction of force and, quote, job task complete. which the lawsuit says were patently false. Pretextual reasons, and that the real reason he was laid off was in retaliation for reporting racial discrimination. The lawsuit asserts that Watts was a conscientious and hard-working employee who never received any write-ups, never any disciplinary action for any reason, and that no one had ever complained to him about the quality of his work prior to his firing. They had no paperwork to prove or justify the firing. In his termination paperwork, his performance was noted as good, and he was eligible for rehire in the termination document, okay? There's more. So in his motion to dismiss the case, J&L maintained that the decision for Watts to remain in the Monroeville shop was a mutual decision made with Watts, and that it quickly became apparent after he was hired that Watts was not capable of performing millwright work, but his supervisors had retained him in hopes of providing additional training. The company also argued, now this is their dismissal motion, okay? The company also argued that the nature of its work is cyclical, basically seasonal, and that it routinely lays off employees when work slows down, which it did starting in October 2022, eventually laying off 18 employees, both white and black, by 2023 when Watts was terminated. So that's their claim to dismiss. That's their motion. It's really more so of an affirmative defense than a motion to dismiss a case. So it didn't get dismissed. So after a 2-day trial in May, the all-white 8-member Alabama jury deliberated for a few hours before returning a unanimous verdict that said, yeah, y'all were racist. We know what's up. We speak that code right there. Yep. Finding specifically that J&L had reassigned him and terminated him because of his race and due to his protected activity of complaining about racial slurs, whistleblower protection. Their verdict awarded him $639,240, $39,240 for lost wages, benefits, $200,000 in compensation for emotional pain and mental anguish, and $400,000 in punitive damages, which is a way to punish said company. In his judgment issued on July 8th, because now the judge gets to weigh other factors. You got a verdict, the judge can weigh other factors now. So the judge gets it. Alabama judge. Judge Murray affirmed the jury's verdict. And then said, and I'm going to do something else I'm going to add an additional $338,835 in damages because the jury got it right, but they got the number wrong, according to the judge. $258,438 in front pay, $80,397 in back pay, for a total award of $978,075. Eric Artrip, co-counsel for Watts, told Atlanta Black Star that he was surprised to win such a substantial verdict. This is the lawyer talk. He was surprised on his behalf from 8 conservative Caucasian jurors. He said that. That was his quote. In a, quote, brutally conservative district in southern Alabama. Quote, one of my takeaways is that people are perhaps getting a little less complacent about overt racism and retaliation. That's Mr. Watts pictured with his, that is millionaire Mr. Watts pictured with his attorneys who provided effective counsel. This story is more than about the individual racist human being that decided to say the N-word while at work. It is about opportunity presented to white individuals who knew it was wrong. And they did something this time. They helped Mr. Watts. They reported it. You have now a paper trail. They've acknowledged it did happen. Company seemingly took no action, but it's completely verified by more than one witness. The N-word probably did not offend them, not personally. It can't. But they knew it was wrong and that they're at their workplace. Now, maybe this doesn't go down the same way, obviously, if they're at the bar, but they're at the workplace. And there's a certain amount of respect that is required, civility, and decency. And then you have an all-white jury in Alabama who delivered this verdict within 2 hours. And then you have a judge that said, you got it right on the verdict, but you got it wrong with the number. Now, typically a judge will actually decrease the number for a corporation. They will decrease that number. This is my first time reporting on a judge increasing the number because they always have the right to do either one based on tort reform. All right, hell of a story. This is the thoughts here.
Yeah, the fact that these situations should be open and shut cases and they're not, like these people are really going out of their way to be racist and terrible. They should have just fired the racist guy in the first place, but instead they chose to be racist and it ended up costing them a ton of money. Was it worth it? But can you really put a price on racism, on sticking to your values, even your dumb, hateful values? I don't know. So they could have avoided all of this, but they chose not to. That was their choice. It was their choice to pay this Black former employee $1 million. But I do want to shout out the white employees who reported the incident. And I want to be careful not to give too much credit to people doing the very least here. But it does take a degree of courage to stand up to your superiors. And I think it's easy for people to look from the outside and say, oh, you should have said something. But when it's your job on the line, I feel like a lot of people would be more hesitant to actually speak up, especially in a place like Alabama, where the local culture is inherently and systemically racist, especially again when it's your job. And most people these days cannot afford to potentially lose their jobs or even to lose favor at their jobs, especially when there's nothing in it for them to speak up directly for a colleague. This is the sort of thing that we wish cops would do, and they've proven time and time again that they're incapable of standing up to the establishment for actual human rights because they don't want to risk their own jobs or their proximity to power. So these seem like baby steps, but you can't walk or run without baby steps. Changing minds and cultures is a slow, drawn out process, and it is incessant. It never stops. Progress should, however, be recognized and celebrated whenever we do see it. Last point I want to make, the point about overt racism and people's complacency towards it. I really do hope that people are getting less complacent about it. We didn't hear nearly as many stories prior to, I'm going to say 2015, about overt racism the way that we do now. It was the end of the Obama era and the beginning of a very different era in this country. But the N-word being said publicly in a derogatory way was practically unheard of back then. I don't know if, like the proliferation of social media had something to do with that or what, but either way, it wasn't something that was in the national conversation. So that's simply not where we are anymore. We are less civilized in a lot of ways than we used to be. And if people in Alabama are noticing that this is a problem and this is bad and this has gotten out of control, then maybe there's hope for the nation going forward.
Sometimes you come to the brink of chaos to appreciate peace.